Hey, what's up guys? Tukey here, back again with another episode of my Cincinnati Reds Draft to Glory franchise mode series on MLB The Show 18. Today, we're a little bit fired up after an interesting set plan episode over on the Hockey Ultimate Team series, and we're also a little bit fired up because it's another big episode. There's a lot of pressure. We have to get this team back on track after our slip-up of a season. So let's get right down to business. Again, we have an offer out for TJ Irvin. Hopefully he ends up signing that. As far as our three players are concerned here, Nolan Jones is coming off of a career year, but he's also 30 years old, and I think for that reason, we're going to look to get compensation for him. Mason Denneberg has been okay. He's been okay. I just don't know. I mean, here's the issue I think with him. Or what was the issue with him was that he wanted to be the ace. Not expecting to be the ace at this point. So there is that debate over whether or not he's worth bringing back, but I gotta be honest, I think I'd prefer to go 2 years at the most. Money-wise, we might have some big contracts coming up. That's the tough call, because right now we have Bailey, Medina, Manzanillo, Carrasco, and that's kind of it. Like, Clyde Martin might be ready. I just don't know if we want to pay $9 million to someone who's been okay, to be honest. And I gotta admit, as I say that now, I'm gonna trust my gut. Mason Denneberg is on the way out, and because he's 32 years old, Durbin Feltman is also going to be on the way out. So Denneberg was an old Rule 5 pickup. Durbin Feltman was an old Rule 5 pickup. And Nolan Jones, of course, I think was a Rule 5 pickup as well. All three are going to be on their way out. We're going to try to turn things over to the new guard. TJ Irvin or Irvine is in. And let's move forward. Of course, we might be set up rather quickly. Hopefully, I think I'll keep this part live. But again, we have Shipman, Abreu, Rincon, and Camacho. These other three do not belong to us. I think really we're at that point now where we have to decide between Abreu and Shipman. Shipman has a hell of an arm and is certainly the best, or at least the most reliable at bat, but that decision's going to have to be made sooner rather than later. At first, of course, we still have Bobby Bloom, Marlon Puh, and Eddie Welsh, who we just drafted, who, I mean, come on, he's probably not going to make it anywhere. Second base, we still have Graham Edwards, Jimenez, Alexis Cabrera, Abdul Elam, and Robbie Esparza. All belong to the organization at this point. And hopefully we continue to see some development out of one Alexis Cabrera. That would be extremely helpful. We kept Graham Edwards last year. Still think that was the right choice. So now at third, the big thing is Ramon Vasquez is in, and I think the main reason needed to be because of his power. That is certainly the one thing that we are missing as a team. In theory, we have some players who are capable of hitting home runs, but are we going to have someone who can compete, I mean, for, the home run crown every year? Absolutely not. Quinlan and Fernando Chavez are the only two players here that belong to us, and as long as I don't screw up by continuing to hit the wrong button, we should be fine. In left at this point, still a little bit crowded with Lopez, Stowers, Clausen, Miles. Lawson is also ours, Calzado, and Avila, so that's what it's looking like at this point. Brian Lopez is 30 years old. That's kind of scary that one of our best players is looking like he's entering the twilight of his career. All those center fielders belong to us, and in right, all five of these players belong to us, including former high-up pick Tom Lau. I don't remember, was he a #1 pick or our first non-#1 pick? I honestly cannot remember. For closers, we still have Will Vincent, Garner, Gillis, Orvala, Poe, Chavez, Cervantes, who is not ours, actually, which is shocking. I feel like we just drafted him and I didn't write his name down. That's the issue. I'll find out what happens with him. Shh. I honestly feel like I forgot to write his name down because he's the type of player we'd have. Padilla is ours. Yep, he is ours. Whoops. That was a hell... That could have been rough. I haven't made that mistake yet. That could have been rough. Velez is ours. I was looking in the wrong spot. Cervantes is ours. Padilla, Zarate, and Montgomery. All of those closers were actually ours. It's a good thing we double check. We have Boyle, Johnson, Edwin Velasquez, Tavares, Silva, Shearer still belongs to us, Burden and Chen. Villalobos does not. He'll be on the way out, as well will be Ibar. For starters, again, hopefully we can find another addition to the Rule 5. It's probably going to be a necessity. But we do have Bailey, Medina, Manzanillo, Carrasco, Trevino, Martin, Herrera, Cedeno, Nielsen, Rodriguez, Richie Burnett, who actually indeed does belong to us. We have Malgrat, Drew Sanchez, Mariano Pena, Marcus Mandel. Valenzuela is also ours. Daniel Valenzuela. Jesus, Josh Marte. We have so many starting pitchers on roster right now. Adrian Parra, Domingo Flores, Tommy Alonso, Gary Johnson is ours, so we are good to go. That is your full look at the roster. Whether or not it stays that way, time will tell. We do have to add Burden, Valenzuela, and Camacho to the 40-man roster. So we will do that now. Burden is good, and Camacho, I mean, we might as well look to keep you. I don't think we'd lose you anyway, but still, in terms of arbitration, this is the tough one, where people are like, hey, offer arbitration, or, you know, offer arbitration to pay attention to the arbitration years, which, for sure, I think I'm going to just go straight forward here with Bailey, probably drop it down, because I don't plan on getting rid of Joe Bailey. He wasn't exactly phenomenal this past season. It's kind of a tough call. I could go 1 year on this, but if he gets better, which he still could, I'd prefer to keep him where he is. How much money could I look to save? I'm going to go 3.5. And we'll see what Joe Bailey thinks. Eduardo Carrillo at 32. This is a tough situation. He wants to be played as a star, which I cannot guarantee at all. So we'll look at 3 years. We'll try to save as much money as possible here, but I can't help but think Carrillo's going to go down as one of those guys. We'll also go 3.5 for him. He's going to go down as one of those guys that I'm just going to have to trade because there's not going to be room for him. Francisco Jimenez wants to play in an everyday role, which is absolutely nuts. You know, I do like to get these contracts out of the way. Here's the thing, though. Even if I go the arbitration route, they're just going to be pissed off about the money they're making. Which, really, they're going to be pissed off about the money that they're making regardless. We'll go back to 3.5 for Joe Bailey. And like I said, I'll sign these guys to these deals just to see what the roster ends up looking like. But do not be surprised if quite a few of them end up being on the outs. Especially someone like Francisco Jimenez, who there's just no way he's going to be an everyday player for us. That's just not going to happen. And John Johnson only wants 1.6, which isn't that bad. We gave him a decent chance to succeed last year. He just wasn't up for the challenge. And as far as the normal players go, Bryant K, who had a massive season, wants to be an everyday player. Still get him on a good contract renewable-wise. Vasquez, same thing. Be able to get him on a decent contract. Where does it bounce? 1-1, actually, with Bryant K. So it's 2 years. I don't want to go any cheaper with Bryant K. He'll be upset morale-wise. Marlon wants to be a regular everyday player, so this could be his last season here as well in terms of being able to keep him happy on this team. Martin Abreu, we'll go 2 years with that renewable deal. Try to drop it slightly before or below 1.2. We'll go 1 million. That works. Chris Velez. Really good chance he ends up being on the MLB roster this season with the absence now of Durbin Feltman. Domingo Trevino might have an outside chance of making the Major League roster as well. I mean, just because he's a C potential doesn't mean I'm not going to, ignore him. Cervantes, another guy who has an outside chance, I'd say. We'll go 550. Clyde Martin, another guy as well. 0 for Bunting, has an outside chance of making the Major League roster, as does Edwin Velasquez. It's going to be interesting to see how this roster shapes up and whether or not we even do anything in the Rule 5 draft, to be honest, just because we have so much talent here already. And of course, that is the challenge of a series like this, is not taking in draft picks, or not taking in draft picks, I mean, not getting players. We do get extra draft picks. You knew what I meant. Not taking in prospects. I used the wrong word, just to retool. But that's the point. It is supposed to be challenging. So Padilla will pay you a little bit. Alexis Cabrera We'll pay you a little bit as well in case you get called up. Russell Zarate. And I'm going to wait for everybody else. So, free agency-wise, you have Jason Comstock as the top. Royce Lewis, Soroka's up there. Hopefully, we can get some compensation, though, here. So, let's move forward a couple of days. Jared Kelenic, perhaps, goes to the Red Sox. Comstock to the Mets. David Min to the Red Sox. The Red Sox are spending. Trade between the Twins and the Rangers. Royce Lewis to the Pirates. Soroka to the Pirates. Reese McGuire to the Blue Jays. Eduardo Carrillo is the only one who has not signed out of that initial group. Let's go to Cedeno. We'll go 3 years, bump it up to $600K. Ray Nielsen, we'll go 3 years, bump that up a little bit. Ryan Fernandez, give you a little bit more. Dan Williams, give you a little bit more. Pedro Rodriguez, who I hope turns into an absolute gem for obvious reasons. Alex Shearer, bump that up a bit. Stephen Booth. I mean, it's just, I'm so intrigued, but also anxious, just because of how this last season went. But I'm intrigued to see how these players develop, and if we start to find success, if we, legitimately start winning the division and making a bit of an impact, who will be the guys that lead us to that point. As Ian Anderson to the Orioles, Nolan Gorman. Nolan Jones accepts the qualifying offer, which means we are going to lose Nolan Jones for nothing, unfortunately. I have no choice but to just ditch him to a team for nothing. Baltimore, do you have a guy like Ray Gutierrez? They actually can't afford him. Is there another team that at least needs a third baseman? Take a look here at the Tigers. Colton Welker, I'd prefer not to take back somebody that good, actually. Worst guy for you is Ross Mosher, but he's not signed. What about Eli Andino? Also would have trade difficulties. So I'm at least trying to be nice in terms of sending him to a team that actually needs him, because, I like Nolan Jones. I don't want to get rid of him. But some things have to be done. Toivonen, still with cap issues. A lot of teams with cap trouble right now. What about the Athletics? Oakland, what do you say? Carlos Perez? Still no. Jesus. There's got to be some team that can take him, right? There has to be somebody that wants Nolan Jones. The Mets, I know you just signed a big-time reliever. Can't afford him now either. Man, Nolan, you might not. No wonder why you're not getting any offers. A lot of teams are having some big-time money trouble. Here we go. We might have made it work. There we go. He's going to the Phillies. We're going to acquire Willie Avalos, who will be on the roster for this season. Nolan Jones goes to Philadelphia. If they choose to sign him after the season, so be it. But Nolan Jones is on the way out, unfortunately. As Malgrat, I didn't mean to double tap there, but let's continue to try and get these players back on roster. Augustine Silva, try to save a little bit of money there. Mariano Pena, Mendel, will go 3 years. Valenzuela, let's bump that up again. Adrian Parr, my God, having to re-sign everybody every year. It is a tad bit tedious. Let's go with just a tad bit tedious. Greg Leary, bump that up. Michael Chen, Carmen Avila, who will just continue to be a career AAA ball player until he retires. Tommy Alonso, Camacho, same thing. Will just continue to be on the squad as depth until he retires. Rowdy Tellez to the Tigers. The Brewers offered a trade. No thanks, I'm good. So we only have 4 players who haven't accepted a contract. The big one to be concerned about here is Carrillo. He's the big one to be concerned about. I'm going to wait him out, see what happens. Please, I didn't even see who just signed there. So it's just Carrillo and Jack Burden that we're waiting for. With Carrillo, I'm going to go 10-5 over 3 years. Your offer. Actually, what would that be per year? If we go 3 years, 10-5, what would that be per year as, money-wise, it's getting a little bit tight. It'd be 3.5. So, go ahead and bump that up, and hopefully this works out in our favor. And we'll see if he ends up signing here. Still hasn't. Buddy, you really need to. Jack Burden hasn't signed yet either. See, anybody, has he signed? He hasn't signed. I gotta be honest, if we lose him, I'm not upset because he's 32 and he's gonna start regressing. So, we'll see what happens. Jack Burden needs to smarten up because no one else is gonna sign him. Jack Burden, what the hell are you doing? How much more could you possibly want? You're a career minor leaguer. Get it together, man. So it's just Carrillo that we're waiting for. Cool. Let's move forward. Like I said, if we lose him, I'm not sweating it because it's fine. Again, there's really no room for him here. He has signed. Beautiful. So we're good to go. We are good to move on to the Rule 5. Tremendous. Now again, whether or not we pick anybody up, I'm honestly not sure. Let's see. Oh, what we have here, though, it depends on who's available, to be honest. And we are not being granted a pick. So I guess it doesn't depend, does it? Rule 5, not an option to us this year, unfortunately, and I know why. It's because the players that we added to the 40-man to make sure that we kept them, that put us at 40. There wasn't any space on the 40-man roster. At least I think that's the reason. Quite confident. But we will see what happens here. As per usual, I need to free up, I need to fill up this roster. So I'll be back in a moment. The roster will be set, and then we'll sim to the draft where hopefully things go well. But I'll get you a look at what this team's going to look like on opening night. That said, let's look at the top prospect list while we're here. Now, it can change once I call up and send people down. But Clyde Martin, Tom Lau, we at least have 2 players on the list, so that's somewhat promising. And those are the only 2. And I suppose as well, we'll look at scout contracts while we are here. It's been a while since we've hired somebody better. I think the efficiency and the discovery of John Lockett, though, he's not good with pitchers. But he might be a requirement. We really need pitchers, though. I'm going to stay with Alberto Matthews. I think perhaps controversially. Just like I'm going to stay with Guardado over Baresi. Starkey as well. And in the West, Gary Buckley is not going to be replaced. All right, so I'll talk to you guys in a moment. All right, guys, here we go. The roster is set for the 2029 season. It's kind of ridiculous to believe that we're already this far into it. I want to get you a look at the ratings first and foremost, and just to update you again, the top prospects list didn't really adjust for us. So let's take a look. Ratings-wise, we are the 10th rated team in the league. First in speed, first in contact, 24th in power, 17th in pitching, 29th in defense, which I feel like is somewhat unfair. Because of that, though, I can't help but think, sponsorship-wise, do we still do the 2K per hit, 40K per win, 55K per save, or do we look to change that up a little bit? Let me know what you think. Again, these are the sponsorships that I currently have. So let me know what you think. How should we set that up pretty much for every season? Let me know. Regardless, this is the team. Rotation-wise, Steve Carrasco has arrived. The 23-year-old is an 83, but up to an 87 due to morale, specifically because he is the ace this season. The one thing that is so scary, the low control and the hits per 9. I feel like we're going to be walking a tightrope with Steve Carrasco as the ace as it currently stands. Second up is Joe Bailey. He's an 83 playing like an 85. The unfortunate thing with him, of course, the hits per 9 are a bit low. The stamina, also questionable. Winston Medina, an old Rule 5 pickup, is an 82, playing like an 82. And again, you know, the walks are probably a concern with him. Thomas Manzanillo, you can see the grades there, but he's an 80, playing like an 83. The hits and the K is certainly a concern. And Domingo Trevino is, in fact, going to be in the rotation. It's a little bit scary. He's a 76 playing like an 81. Fairly well-rounded. The home runs, the control, slightly concerning. The reason why he's here is because I did not want to rush Clyde Martin. I'd prefer Clyde Martin to have one more season, especially too because of the low stamina. But if, you know, worst case scenario comes up, we do have Martin there and ready to go. Eduardo Herrera is going to be our long reliever. Again, fairly well-rounded. The stamina also not all that great. The bullpen's still looking okay, though. We have Napoleon Gillis right now up to an 82. Lincoln Post is an 80. Chris Velez, a 79. Norman Garner, an 82. Bruce Boyle still here. And yes, still pissed about not being the closer. And then, of course, Will Vincent. Down in AAA, just so you get another look again, guys like Clyde Martin, Russell Zarate is now on the top 50 list. AA as well, we have a couple of guys, mainly C potentials, that we're keeping an eye on. Lineup-wise is where it gets interesting. To start this season, I want to start off with who's on the bench, as you see Henry Shipman there. If Martin Abreu is in as the everyday catcher, he goes up to an 87 overall. He deserves the opportunity, at 22 years old with a B potential, to be our starting catcher, even though we know what Shipman can do at the plate. So it is Martin Abreu's position to lose, unfortunately. Fernando Chavez, he's a C potential guy. We're not too worried about him. We just needed an infielder, utility guy to help fill out the the bench and everything to get more of a well-rounded spot. Francisco Jimenez, same thing. I'd love for him to be in regularly, but there's just not room for him. And then that brings me to Archie May. The outfield setup right now, to the point where Glenn Huff, we need to see if he's worthy of being in as an everyday player. Last year he was pretty solid, but so was Bryant Kay. So both are going to be in to start. If one slips up, Archie May is there and has the opportunity to take his spot. That said, the big struggle is the fact that all four members of the top four demand to be star players. I think because Edwards is a little bit more crucial to our success than Joe Quinlan at this point, it is Quinlan who finds himself in the 2 spot. So throughout the lineup, or with every lineup, Edwards is first, then Quinlan, Bobby Bloom, and Brian Lopez. From there, when we have a DH, it is Marlin who is in. Of course, the power game could be extremely useful. He had a pretty strong season last year. And then everywhere else, without the DH, this is the bottom 4. Ramon Vasquez, Bryant Kay, Glenn Huff, and Martin Abreu. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. AAA-wise, I mean, there's some long-time faces that are, well, a couple of... mainly Josh Stowers, finally sent down to AAA, but he'll get regular playing time. Eduardo Carrillo is there as well. There's a mix of guys. The only one I'm concerned about, I mean, I'm concerned about Fernandez as a C potential, but also Abdul Elam. But again, also, or Elam, also a C potential guy. And the AA team, I mean, someone like Stephen Booth, who should not be down in AA, but that's just the depth that we have in the outfield right now. How this team will do, I do not know. Last year, we had some high hopes after, in 2027, putting up an 83-win season. We only won 72 games. So what happens this time out? It's going to be interesting to see regardless. Our lineup is probably stronger than it's ever been. The rotation is quite strong at this point now that Steve Carrasco, in theory, is ready to take over. I don't want to wait any longer. Let's see what happens. I will see you guys at the draft. We'll do a quick stat recap and then get into making our picks. Draft day is upon us, and as you can see, things aren't going all that poorly. 35-26 on the season. We are leading the division by 3 games over the St. Louis Cardinals, which, I gotta be honest, is a little bit surprising, and you might see something there that's kind of interesting as well. We'll talk about it. Again, if you don't care much for the stats, just skip ahead a little bit, and it will be draft time. Now, unfortunately, we are coming off of a 14-13 loss, but we are doing quite well, as I mentioned. The one downside is that we have dealt with injuries to both Joe Quinlan and Eduardo Carrillo. Well, it's down to AAA in fairness, but the big one was Quinlan. It was actually, I think it was Bryant Kay that picked up an injury. So the lineup has changed a bit. I want to start off with pitching, though, where, in fairness, Steve Carrasco is not doing well at all. I mean, a 5.21 ERA is pretty poor. The overall looks great. He's improving, but yeah, not exactly what we would have been hoping for. Giving up 10 home runs on the season. The Ks per 9, a little bit weaker than it, well, actually, in fairness, the smaller the number, the better. So that's looking okay. The FIP is lower, but still not quite what we're looking for. Joe Bailey as well, still not quite what we're looking for. The 87 overall, though, looks quite good, but yeah, that ERA is a little bit higher than one would have hoped for. You have Winston Medina, still a 4.68. This is the first time I've looked at these numbers, by the way, and now that I have, I'm a little bit concerned that we're on the bubble. Either the pitching is going to get itself going, or we're going to fall off a cliff. Now, Thomas Manzanillo has been phenomenal. A 2.43 ERA for the 29-year-old as compared to, say, what he was doing last year. So that is tremendous. A 7-3 record. And if that holds as we approach the All-Star break, he'll certainly be someone who starts to get a higher-up spot. Domingo Trevino has also been quite poor with a over 5 ERA. So, 4-5 record for him on the season. There you go. Eduardo Herrera also has been horrific as the long-term reliever. Down in AAA, though, you could argue that Clyde Martin, a legitimate 76, should be given an opportunity. Outside of that, I mean, Pedro Rodriguez has been okay. I don't know if we want to rush him either. Mendel has been okay, and Richie Burnett's been quite poor. So we do have some options, not a ton, which does lead me to mention this about the draft and what my draft strategy was, as you'll see in a moment. But let's continue onward. Napoleon Gillis looking pretty good. I mean, the whip as well, for however much stock you want to put into that stat. He's looking pretty good, certainly thus far improved upon what he had done last year. 13 holds on the season. Not looking all that bad. Lincoln Post. Ooh. Lincoln Post has only seen 12 innings of work, but yeah, that's rough. Whereas Chris Velez, who's up to an 83 now, also looking good. The ERA at a 3.35, the whip almost at a 1. Chris Velez has been great this season, the 23-year-old. Nice to see him breaking into this team. 7 holds, a blown save on the season. You also have Norman Garner. So as much as the rotation has struggled, the bullpen, or at least what we've seen of it thus far, has been tremendous outside of one Lincoln Post. Sorry, Lincoln, but, you know, these are facts. You also have Bruce Boyle, who's doing well, not phenomenally, but he's also doing well, in fairness. I mean, phenomenal maybe for what we could have expected, but the 30-year-old now at this point, Bruce Boyle, having a strong season. And Will Vincent, I mean, he's a 98. I don't care if that whip in the air is a bit high. 19 saves on the season, an 0-2 record, only 3 blown saves. I will take it. So, some good stuff there, again, from the bullpen. Fairly promising, as we need to, in fairness, down in AAA, we can check for the hell of it. And no, I'm definitely not distracted right now. What would ever make you think that right now I'm a little bit distracted? What would have you assume that I had to delete some files off of my hard drive because my hard drive space was getting low and this was at risk of cutting off? What would ever make you think that? In terms of the bullpen, not that we really need a call-up option, but Chad Padilla has been great. Cervantes has been solid. Sorvala's been great at this point. The veteran Velasquez has been okay. So, again, we do have some options. Getting to the lineup, though, this is where it gets interesting, I am sure, at least in one case, because I have seen some of these numbers. Now, Graham Edwards, 12 home runs, 28 RBIs, a 3.10 average on the season. He's a 93 playing like a 95. In terms of the on-base, it's at a 385. 560 slugging and an OPS of 946. So just to outright compare that, I mean, we can't to Quinlan, who's out. But of course, there was that debate over Quinlan being the leadoff man as opposed to Edwards. Like I said, felt like we had to go with Edwards due to the, the desire for him to be a star. But overall, fairly happy at least with the base numbers. Jimenez has stepped in due to injury. 1 home runs, 15 RBIs, a 275 average. So not all that bad. I did have the option of bumping up other players if I wanted to. I went with Jimenez, though, in that 2 spot just to outright replace Quinlan. And all in all, not terrible. A 351 on base. I don't hate it. Because there is always that debate, too, if I wanted to bump up, say, some of the outfielders to that 2 spot, whether or not they're going to perform better in a more high-pressure spot, whereas you would have seen, at least for one outfielder in particular, he's doing quite well. Bobby Bloom, in fairness, 9 home runs, 23 RBIs, a 230 average. for the 95 overall 26-year-old, the face of this series, I'd say at this point, he is struggling. So you factor in right now, our starting pitching struggling, our biggest star player struggling, but we're still first in the division. So there is a chance that if this turns around, we're going to win this division title handily. So a 230 average, the on base is still pretty solid, all things considered. 32 walks on the season already. He only drew 59 last year. So we have to factor that in. 7 errors thus far on the season. 22 at-bats per home run, where last year it was 14. That is a major, major factor. Brian Lopez, 6 home runs, 39 RBIs, a 247 average. We are seeing him regress, but he's an 86 playing like a 90. So he's still a key player for us, but that regression has kicked in a little bit sooner than we would have hoped. The numbers are down from last season. But as mentioned, Bobby Bloom's struggling, so I'm not going to panic or freak out that Brian Lopez has regressed a bit so far this season. Marlin, only 2 home runs, 10 RBIs, 250 average, 88 at-bats though, so of course we're not in a DH league, so that's a big factor. Here's the thing though. Ramon Vasquez, 16 home runs, 40 RBIs, and a 266 average. I love Nolan Jones, but I think we made the right call in letting him go. Vasquez is looking solid. A 307 on base is a little bit concerning. Slugging percentage is looking pretty damn good. I'm happy with him being in this lineup. And obviously, the overall is extremely promising. Only 1 error on the season as well. So I like what I'm seeing from Ramon Vasquez. Here's the wild card. Archie May has gone off. Bryant Kay picked up an injury, which let Archie May step into the lineup for a couple of weeks. He was undeniable. Similar batting average, had like 10 home runs, 14 RBIs in under 70 at-bats, something like that. So it was undeniable that Archie May had to step back into the lineup. Like, it could not, like, it would have been a disservice to take him out of the lineup. He has been tremendous thus far. Absolutely tremendous. He had to stay. Only 1 error on the season as well. So for an outfielder, of course, we know he's quite solid. I do want to look at Bryant Kay now, who in fairness isn't doing that poorly either, with 4 home runs, 19 RBIs, and a 262 average on the season. Of course, last year he was tremendous. The numbers are a little bit down, but of course he hasn't had as much playing time this year. So that's the real question. Like I said, we have some strong depth. You look at Glenn Huff, I mean, a 283 average. You could debate who deserves that spot now between Huff and Kay, because Archie May has absolutely locked down that spot. But Glenn Huff still 6 home runs, 17 RBIs, 283 average on the season, a 386 on base. And in terms of his fielding ability, only 1 error. So the outfield's actually done quite well defensively this season. And then we get to Martin Abreu, which it's about as bad as you would have expected. I mean, 4 home runs, 18 RBIs, a 193 average. So it comes down to the on base, which is sub 300, so that hurts. Slugging percentage is way down. So it's tough. 21 walks on the year for him. You could debate whether or not he deserves it. I mean, obviously a defensive first catcher, but, you know, for someone who has such promise, what do we do? I mean, hell, his contact has gone down. We have Henry Shipman, who hasn't seen that many at-bats, but does have a 250 average. So let me know what you think. Between Huff and Kay, what do we look to do? Do we stick with Abreu for a little bit or put in Shipman? And as far as the order goes, again, I still think it's going to be Edwards, Quinlan, Bloom, and Lopez, but everything can be changed around from there. Just to get you a look as well at Joe Quinlan, he was struggling at the plate to begin this season, only a 206 average. He'll be back, though, very, very soon. With that, the only thing really left to do is to take a look at the league leaders, which Archie May leads the NL in average over 90 overall Taylor Trammell, which is ridiculous. Edwards is up there in terms of hits. Trammell is dominating in that stat. Graham Edwards leads the league in triples, so a hell of a leadoff man to have. Ramon Vasquez is tied for home runs in the NL. Archie May is in 10th. So those two right now certainly carrying the weight for us. Lopez and Huff are up there for stolen bases. Bloom is up there for walks. On base percentage, Huff is up there. Edwards and Archie May as well. May leads in slugging. Edwards was up there as well. May and Edwards up there for OPS. And based on wins, Manzanillo right now tied for second. So we're looking pretty good with Will Vincent third in terms of saves. ERA, again, Manzanillo's having a great season. So anything under a 3 right now is pretty damn good. And anything under a 4 puts you 38th. So, you know, I mean, maybe we should temper our expectations a little bit in terms of starting pitching. But, you know, it's close to a 4. So the 5s are, you know, come on, that's not good enough. But the 4s are looking relatively good. I do want to look as well at our team rankings, where in terms of batting average, we are currently 16th. So that's a little bit lower than you would have expected for a team that's first rated in contact. In terms of at-bats, for the record, just to balance that out, we're 15th. Runs scored, we're tied for 5th. Hits, we are 15th. Triples, we're 4th, thanks to Graham Edwards. In terms of home runs, we are 12th this season. Not too bad. 5th in RBIs, 1st in stolen bases by a significant amount. In terms of walks, we're 5th. Not too bad. Strikeouts, we are relatively up there. That kind of sucks. Slugging percentage, we are 10th. Let's take a look on base percentage, total bases, plate appearances. I mean, we're doing, you know, we're doing okay. You know, fewest amount of double plays. Putouts, errors. Actually, that's what I want to take a look at here is fielding percentage, where we are 22nd. But again, few plays here and there go our way, and we're much further up. Team ERA is at a 4.25, so that's 21st in the league. Blown saves as well, just to look, we are currently tied for 19th. So there is that. Hits allowed, for the hell of it, we should probably look at this too. We are currently 13th. And with that, home runs allowed, we are currently 13th with 71, or tied for 13th. I think we're good. So, moving on to the scouting. Finally, here is the situation. I have gone very heavy into scouting starting pitching. Very heavy. Hopefully, we can bring in some insurance. That is the game plan. We beat the White Sox. Let's go to the draft. We have the 3rd pick. Let's see what we can do as 2 starting pitchers go to begin the draft, which certainly hurts. We do have 1 or 2 extra picks, actually, between rounds 2 and 3, so that could be quite helpful. Let's see what we can do. So I am still going to look at everybody, because I want to make sure we don't miss out on anybody crazy, but starting pitching is the goal. So we start off with Steve Stultz, who is not bad. 20-year-old, he's going to be ready in 3 years. Pretty good contact, decent power, decent vision and discipline. He's not bad. I mean, the big thing there is that he is blue chip. So we'll keep an eye out on that. Kelly, we're not going to worry about. We don't know anything about him. Adrian Estrada in right. I would prefer to go with Stultz, I would think. Claudio Espinoza, the 22-year-old. He's ready in 4+ years. We will ignore him. So again, Gonzalez will ignore. Franco will ignore. Right now, it's Stultz, who I'd say is at the top of the list. Then we get to 3rd baseman Henry Lewis. Hello, Henry. Good contact, vision, and discipline. I know he's not blue chip, but Henry Lewis also looking pretty damn good. Then we get to our first pitcher, Orlando Rosas, the 20-year-old. He's going to be ready in 3 years, and he's probably worth taking regardless. Couple of 60s, couple of 70s, couple of 80s. I like Stultz, I like Lewis, but let's be honest, Rosas right now is he's at the top of the list. He has to be. He has to be. You got Jerome Campbell, Alexis Abreu, Derek Quinlan, who we're not going to look at, Jose Ibarra, the 19-year-old, who will be ready in 4+ years. He is not better than Rosas, also has high injury risk. Craig Leffler is going to be ready next year, the 21-year-old. Holy hell. So, we don't exactly need him, but my God, he could be our future closer if we needed him. I'd say Rosas is a little bit more important. There's an 18-year-old who's going to be ready in 2 years, Hayden Montag, who is also a beast. So I think that's the plan. Round 2, hope that Leffler or Montag are available, but we don't need relievers as much. We do in terms of replacing Lincoln Post and the fact that, you know, we got some guys who are at 30 or approaching 30, but we can't prioritize that with the first pick here. Adrian Juarez is not better than Rosas from what I'm seeing there. He's not bad, though. Is there anybody else? Malone, ready in 2 years at 22. I'd still probably value Rosas over him due to that 55. I think he has an extra 70. They just about balance out. I'll keep him in mind, but I think Rosas would be better. Justin Barrera, would it be? The 19-year-old. He's going to be ready in 4 years. Fairly well-rounded. Don't think he was better than Rosas, though. Brian Yee is not bad, but not worth taking over a pitcher. Lou Barron, the second baseman, ridiculous contact, but not worth taking over a pitcher. Ricky Hooper, the reliever, not looking too bad, not better than either of the closers, though. Tyrell Bagley, he's 21, but 4+ years away as a gem. He's not bad, or a blue chipper, I should say, to use MLB rather than NHL terminology. I don't trust it, though. Like, obviously, players in this game can develop at, 26, 25, 26, 27, but with Bagley, 4+ years away, he's going to be ready at 25 at the earliest. I don't know. Those numbers aren't crazy, but just knowing that 25 at the earliest, that scares me. Same thing with Benito German. I know he's blue chip, and I'd probably go, let's see, Bagley. You have 3 60s, a 50, a 70, and an 80. I'd probably still go for Bagley, but those two scare me, to be honest. Eric Valencia, not looking bad at all. Ready next year at 18 years old. Holy hell, Valencia could be the guy. If only he was blue chip, he'd be can't miss. Everything else, I mean, everything's looking great for him, to be honest. Sam Medeiros, the 20-year-old. Unless you have, like, crazy good power, I'm not considering it right now. He's solid defensively, but obviously we prioritize the pitching. Drew Tavares as another closer. We can't trust that, but he could be worth it. And then we go down to the 75s. So, for me, it's between Orlando Rosas, who is blue chip, and I think for that reason he has to win. It's between him, Valencia, who looks pretty damn good, and Malone, who was up here. So yeah, it has to be Orlando Rosas. That's not even a consideration. He's 20. He's going to be ready in about 2 years, actually 3 years time. Well, granted, it's 2029, so 30, 31, yeah, 3 years time for Rosas. But yeah, blue chipper. Orlando Rosas is the pick, and hopefully he is leading the charge alongside our current ace, of course, in just a few short years. Quite a few of the guys I was looking at are off the board. We get the second pick of the second round. Juarez is there, Ibarra, Barrera, Henry Lewis, that solid third baseman. Eric Valencia, though, is also there, and I think he's too good to pass up. To me, it's down to Valencia or Lewis, and we need to try and solidify that starting pitching. And hopefully one of Tavares or Velez are still available. But yeah, that's not even a question. It's going to be Eric Valencia, who we take here in the second round, as we have hopefully just helped solidify that starting pitching that we still desperately need. We get an extra pick in the compensation round. Now, a couple of 75s might be good. One more look at Justin Barrera. The 19-year-old, he's 4+ years away, but could be worth it. Jose Ibarra, 19 years old, 4+ years away. So, 2 60s, a 40, and 2 50s. And there we have 4 60s and the rest are 70s. So Barrera's definitely the pick. Henry Lewis could be decent, but we don't really have pressure anywhere in the infield to be like, oh, we need Henry Lewis to replace them. But he is very good. Like, very, very good. So that's a tough call. is Henry Lewis too good to pass up? We have Barrera as the starting pitcher. We have Lewis as an outfield option, the third baseman. Who else do we have here in terms of 75s? Again, Velez is looking pretty damn good. Taveras is 160 and the rest are 70s and up. I mean, Drew Taveras as a closer would certainly be my preferred option over Leo Velez. It's going to be ready a year younger, or a year earlier as well, as he is. They are the same age. Edmund Inoue, the 19-year-old. Really good contact, decent power, vision, and discipline. Really good fielding. Man, the Japanese shortstop, not bad. I'd say Lewis is a little bit better because of a better developed power game, but in terms of contact and fielding, the speed as well, Edmund Inoue looking pretty damn good. Who else do we have? Brady Ramey, the 20-year-old. He's going to be ready in 2031. Not bad. Couple of 60s, couple of 70s. Ramey's not bad. I think Barrera was 460s. 460s for him. And if we look at Ramey, 460s for him. Well, between Ramey and Barrera, we're not looking that bad, to be honest. So we have two decent options there. Daniel Stapleton, the 19-year-old, also not that bad. So right now we have three pitchers who I would absolutely consider taking with the next pick. Marcus Ortiz, the 20-year-old's 4+ years away. He's a bit of a step down. Not by much, though. It's the Ks per 9 that concern me, but he should also be considered. Oren Locke will not be considered, and then we go down to 70s, including Willie Feliz. So we have 4 starting pitchers that I'm considering, and a closer. So I gotta be honest, I mean, we have 3 picks coming up. I'm gonna go outfielder, closer, and a starting pitcher. So I just hope that I'm making the right call here, but I think Henry Lewis is the best position player left. I'm taking him here. And the closer is still on the board. That is beautiful. So we'll also get Drew Taveras. That is tremendous. I do believe, though, Brady Ramey is off the board. So it comes down probably to Stapleton or Barrera. Make sure I check Minnesota to see if I made a mistake in not taking Ramey, but he did look pretty damn good. So let's see. Stapleton has a much higher ETA. Barrera or Ibarra, actually it's Barrera that we're looking at, is an 80 potential. So again, with Barrera, 460s, 370s. Stapleton with 260s, a couple of 80s in there as well. It's just that potential that's killing me. I'm going Stapleton. I'm trusting my gut. I'm going Stapleton. Barrera is off the board. He goes to Arizona. That is going to be another huge moment for us in whether or not that was the right decision. So time will tell. 2 huge decisions there. We'll see whether or not that worked out for us. In terms of accuracy, Leo Velez is actually still there. He's not bad either. He's probably my go-to right now. We have Vincent Medley, who, I mean, man, if we can trust that, the Georgian, looking pretty damn good. So we do have Medley, who I'm going to mark down here for the moment. I wish you could shortlist players, man. That's the one thing I'd ask for, NHL style. Benedict Scott. Damn, if you could trust that. Or Benedict Prescott, I should say. Now, here's the thing. There's Prescott and there's Prescott. And around here, in the great state of Maine, I know people who spell it the same goddamn way. One pronounces it Prescott, the others pronounce it Prescott. So, sorry. Okay? Sorry. Ozzie Velasquez. Straight 60s for the most part. Wouldn't be a bad late pickup. Daniel Farrell, or Farrell, perhaps. Again, not terrible. Medley or Prescott would be the better options. Robbie Land we'd avoid. Oren Locke we'd avoid. Robert Amoros. Interesting option. I'd probably prefer Medley over him. Jeff MacArthur. I'd probably still avoid the other one. Alberto Colon, I should say. Also not that bad. I think I'd still prefer the other options. Again, I went all out on starting pitching, guys. Mark Kraft well-rounded. Don't think we'd go for him, though. Alexi Carrera, would it be? And he's not worth it. And then Christopher Hinch. If we could trust him, he might not be that bad. So, for me at this point, I think the decision comes down between Medley and Prescott. It's going to be Vincent Medley. And then hopefully Leo Velez is still available. Looking. I think he's still there. Damn it, Chicago. You ruined it. You ruined it, Chicago. That's okay. Benedict Prescott, still there as well. He's my next pick. So that works as we're, again, basically going all out for starting pitching. This could be a gigantic draft for us. It's the last pick of the draft. We still have starters available. We don't have information on anybody else. So we are going to take one more starting pitcher. In terms of ETA, they're all the same. So looking at age, I think I'd rather go for one of the three youngest. In terms of potential, 65 is the highest. So it's either going to be Amoros, Kraft, or MacArthur. They are all average. Ooh, lower injury risk. Okay. So with the Moros, I mean, that's not terrible. You know what I'm going to do here? We're going to go NHL style. I'm going to bring up ye olde calculator app, and in terms of projected, I just want to see what the average is. So that's about a 61 average for Amoros in terms of projected. In terms of projected, if we could trust that. What else do we have here? Let's see, so divide that by 7. It's a 58 for Kraft in terms of high-end projected. So right now, Amoros would probably be my go-to. And then we have MacArthur, which I'm not sure. That 80 could be the difference maker. MacArthur right now, in terms of projected stats, the ceiling there, he has the higher ceiling than Amoros, apparently. Now again, there was someone like Cologne, who's a year older. Christopher Hinch is the only other one I'd consider. And you know what? Here, we might as well take a look at those two, because those are the only other two guys that I would consider. So again, is this like an exact science that I'm doing here? No, I'm just trying to get a different look. Where Cologne's slightly higher than MacArthur. Taking a look at this. Again, just trying to find a way to get a simple little tiebreaker. I think Christopher Hinch is going to have the best. He is by far. I'm going to go with Christopher Hinch, the 19-year-old. Let's do it. And we'll see if that works. Again, this is going to be very interesting to see how this works out. I am nervous. Here we go. Yes! Oh, God, look at those potentials. Now we just need the overalls to follow up. Whoo, boy, that is exactly what we need. Henry fucking Lewis. Okay. Let's settle down. Let's breathe. Orlando Rosas. He's a 65, so that's a little bit rough, but he's 20 years old. He was blue chip. About 10 overall points away. 75 overall is where we could look to call him up, and the potential, the morale, will boost him up to 78, maybe even towards an 80. So he's 20 years old. How long will it take him to go up 10 points? 2 or 3 seasons at the max, hopefully. So that's not bad. Valencia is a beast. Oh my God, Eric Valencia is a monster. 72 overall at 18 years old. The one negative that I have, he was 1 potential point away from being an A grade. He is a B, but still. So we have a project starter who, in fairness, it's almost unfair to label him as a project. It's not as if he's a 50 or a 40. He's a 65 at 20 years old. He should make it, no problem. Then you have Eric Valencia, who again at 18 years old is a 72. Within a season or 2 tops, he is going to be at the major league level. That is crazy. Henry Lewis. Oh my God. Oh my God. How did we get Henry Lewis between the 2nd and 3rd round? I'm not saying I am perfect at drafting. Obviously not. Holy shit, did we just knock that out of the park. He might be the biggest steal we've had in this series. 51 durability is a bit low, but my God. 19 years old, a 72 with A potential. that might be the best 1-2-3 punch to start a draft we have ever had. Henry Lewis is MLB ready after 1 season in the minors. Maybe 2 tops. That is insane. Rosas should be an amazing starter alongside Steve Carrasco. Eric Valencia is right there with him. And then Henry Lewis is going to make things very interesting for us with Bloom at first, Quinlan, Edwards, and Vasquez. It's going to be very interesting to see how that shapes up, but Henry Lewis is here. That is insane. Moving to Drew Tavares, who is B potential. He's a 66 at 18 years old. Oh my God, we needed this so badly. So badly. I took 2 non-starters, and both are great for where we got them. Again, Tavares, so close already. 2 or 3 seasons in the minors. He'll be Major League ready with that B potential. Holy hell. And we still got 1 more big-time potential left, and he's amazing. Daniel Stapleton. Here's the thing. I might have made the wrong choice, but, you know, for some of these guys, but at this point, I don't care. Holy hell, guys. Daniel Stapleton, B potential, 69 overall at 19 years old. That top 5 is, I think, the best top 5 we've had at any point in the series. I don't think I could possibly be wrong. That is insane. Vincent Medley, for a C potential prospect, is incredible. 70 overall at 19 years old. He could be a long reliever in the future. He might even sneak in as the 5th guy in the rotation. Benedict Prescott, on the other hand, I mean, I certainly made the right choice taking Medley. Prescott's more of a project at a 57. Don't know if he'll ever make it, but he's worth signing. And then Christopher Hinch, unfortunately, was a big swing and a miss, who I'm actually not going to sign. We have enough starting pitching depth. So, Hinch, I'm sorry, but that top 5, home run, out of the park, holy shit. That is insane. To look elsewhere, like with Milwaukee, Chris Malone's 22 and a 67, as opposed to Rosas, who's 20, and not to mention an A potential. You have Delgado, who's not looking that bad. He should eventually develop. Jerome Campbell is terrible. Pittsburgh, I mean, Felipe Cabrera is a huge swing and a miss, and they did nothing else in that draft. St. Louis, Rafael Acevedo is okay. About 20 points away from being extremely useful, so that's a bit rough. Lonnie Lopez, same thing, not terrible. At the very least with Acevedo and Lopez, they're younger guys, so those are decent picks. And then Kelly's a big swing and a miss for them. Steve Stultz, we didn't need him, but he would have been a decent pick. 20 years old, 65 overall, 92 potential, but we didn't need him. Danny Driscoll, if I took Stultz over Rosas, you should have stopped watching the series if you haven't already. They also picked up Driscoll, who, 56 at 20 years old. That's kind of rough. Justin Barrera, though. So we ended up getting Drew Tavares. Let's be honest, I should have gone for Barrera. But I feel like my logic was sound in that I know I was going to be taking starters, so we take 1 closer, 1 position player, and then get back to starters. So that's the one miss. It's a big miss. At least the closer was B potential as well. But that's a pretty big miss not getting Justin Barrera. I'm not too upset, though. Colorado, Espinoza, I mean, he's a 59 at 22. Good luck. And Ojeda's a 57 at 24 years old. Again, good luck. Pedrosa's okay. Marcus Ortiz also would have been a decent pickup. 61 overall at 20 years old. And Alberto Colon actually would have been the pick. So we had a chance to have this be a flawless draft. I'd still give myself a 9 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10. But Colon would have been a great pickup. That's a pretty damn good steal for the Rockies. From there, I think we'll just take a look at the higher potential guys. I'll leave judgment to you as far as whether or not you think they were a good pick or not. And at the very least, I mean, if there's someone that I'm like, oh, I wanted to look at them, but I don't look at them, it means they didn't have a B potential. So we have that going for us. Although Alexi Carrera also would have been a decent pick. So, like I said, home run of a draft. Wouldn't give myself the perfect 10 out of 10. I'd say a 9. Is that fair? 9 out of 10 draft? I don't think, I mean, an 8 at the lowest, right? Hopefully. Hell of a draft for us. And when you look at what we've done this season, Brady Ramey would have been a pretty damn good pick too. When you look at what we've done this season, we're currently leading the division. We had some room to change things around. Edman Inoue was amazing, but we didn't need him. And let's be honest, we ended up with that better option. So I'm not too upset. But when you look at what we've done this season, the minor options that we have, Barrow would have been pretty bad. You know, the minor choices that we have in terms of like, okay, what do we change up lineup-wise? Maybe just order of the lineup. A couple of things with the rotation, perhaps, as we get closer to the All-Star break and can reset that rotation. I mean, this was a big, big episode for us in terms of rebounding from that last draft, from that last season, and getting right back on track. So guys, that will do it for this one. I hope you did enjoy. I'll see you next time. Looking forward to the response to this one. If there was a little bit of doubt creeping in over whether or not we could do some damage, I'd say the future is looking just a little bit brighter today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, have a good one.